Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We've already come to our final break of the day, in which we'll continue talking to Leon Willems about the new Free Press Unlimited campaign. And we have a special video from the Dutch Embassy in Albania. Leon, welcome still. Your organization, Free Press Unlimited, is focused on helping local journalists in conflict areas. What is it that you really can do in the field for those journalists?
I think that one of the most important things that we do at the moment is helping journalists that are in danger. So the recent year has been a very bad year for journalism. We've seen an explosion of demand. We run an emergency operation, which is global. And we, with the help of the Dutch government, we are actually supporting legal aid to journalists. In the last year alone...
For journalists in jail?
For journalists in jail, journalists who face, like Maria Ressa, who face cases where the government is acting against them. In Croatia, for example, at the moment, we have a case where journalists are confronted with 900 SLAPP suits. These are actions that are determined to try and prevent journalists from asking public information. So you see that the entire year there has been an enormous amount of legal instruments that are being used to put journalists in jail, arrest them, etc. 91 countries have adopted laws that limit the ability of journalists to do their work.
This is also due to COVID-19, you think?
It is actually true that, while in the Netherlands, at the advent of the COVID-19 crisis, journalists were seen as a vital profession. And so we were allowed to operate under lockdown. In many countries, journalists were actually prevented from doing their job.
Yes.
Press conferences were cancelled, etc. So the COVID crisis has actually accelerated the legal use to silence journalists. And this is one of the things where we can help. We can provide legal assistance. We can evacuate people when they're in danger. This is something that we did in Venezuela and Nicaragua and many other countries. We can send emergency aid, like in Belarus, where people's cameras have been broken. So that is the kind of work that we do.
And how do journalists in those regions reach out to you? Do you find them or do they find you?
So one of the systems that we've been perfectioning within the global community of people who care about journalists is that we have a 24/7 system where different organizations join up. It's called a network, the Journalist in Distress Network. And actually, we work with a lot of partners. We have more than 100 partners globally that, bring cases to our attention. Some of it is simply coming through our website. Others call. I get phone calls, basically every week.
Yes, that much.
If we cannot help, others can. So it's a fairly adequate system.
Yes, and it's still very much needed because a lot of journalists are still being killed. And for that, a few years ago, you held a speech on one of your rallies. And we'll show the clip first, and then you can tell what happened there.
Yeah.
Silence doesn't help. So I encourage you, and I know this is going to be extremely inconvenient, and you're not ready to do this, but I'm asking you to stand up. Can you please stand up, all of you? We have to shout out. We cannot remain silent anymore. So I invite you to follow me and say, stop killing journalists. Stop killing journalists. Stop killing journalists. Thank you. You can decide to sit now.
That was a powerful and also a little bit inconvenient truth you've told there. This is what we have to do. We have to stop killing journalists. How did you come to that idea to do that?
There are so many places and conferences and speeches, and it actually came to me at the spot. And I was thinking, okay, so I prepared a speech, but I'm really angry.
Yes.
I'm really angry because all these people have relatives, have colleagues, have friends. You're not just killing a journalist, you're killing a community, and you're killing information.
Yes.
So I was really angry, and I thought I have to make I have to make a statement.
Yes.
And at the spur of the moment, I said, we should stand up. We should honor these people.
Yeah, we should do something.
And actually, you know, it worked. Many people came to me and said, okay, so you're now Reverend Willems. But I mean, you know, I'm an activist.
Yes.
I see my job as to motivate people to do something. And it worked, because ever since we're standing up at conferences at the beginning. And, you know, it is important that you honor the people.
Yes.
Because these are people that are trying to serve the community.
Yes.
These are not just, you know, it's not a simple drive-by shooting. That is also bad. I mean, I'm not trying to distinguish between what is really bad, but these are people that are serving all of us.
Yes.
And we should honor them.
Yes, and to honor them, the FPU has also made a monument. How do you say this in Dutch?
We call it a digital monument.
A digital monument. This is it. We see it here. It says it's been 30 days since a journalist was killed because of their job. His name was Virgilio. As a journalist, it's quite moved me, and all the names you can also see in 2020, 2019. This is a lot of stories dying.
You see, behind all of these names, there are stories, there are families, there are colleagues, there are people who left the profession because of the risk that is created. And as you know, much of the day we've been talking about 9 out of 10 cases, there is no perpetrator that has been put in jail. Mm-hmm. And one of the new projects that we've started is, can we do investigations from the side of civil society with good research, using the power of investigative journalism to find clues on how can we get the perpetrators behind bars.
Yes.
You see, because, for example, in Algeria during the Dirty War, there have been many journalists killed. Now, the situation is different in Algeria. It's not as bad anymore. But what is ever done to compensate the families, to find those who were active? And this is a situation that happens in many parts of the world: Mexico, India, the Philippines. And so one of the things that is also our ambition behind the legal forum and all our legal activities, can we get people who kill journalists behind bars?
Yes.
Because that is the only way we can really stop the...
And it said now it's been 30 days. Let's hope we can count on until many days.
We can count on.
We can count on, we'll never stop counting. Thank you very much, Leon. And we end Press Freedom TV today with a recap from a side event organized by the Dutch Embassy in Albania.
Freedom of press has its disadvantages, but fewer than the absence of freedom. This is a well-known quote of François Mitterrand, and I'm sure most of you have heard it before, but it remains very valid, and this will also be today central to our discussion. We will zoom in and zoom out on a different dimension of the freedom of press, the responsibility that comes with that, the independence of press, and the ethics of media in Albania. There are media and civil society organizations in Albania that take the freedom of press, ethics and self-regulation seriously. And that's a reason to be optimistic about the future. A free press and journalists who take their ethical standards seriously are essential for a functioning democracy in a free society. Albania is ranked 84th and partly free in the Freedom House report Freedom and Media in 2020. In other words, there's work to be done.
What do you think are the biggest challenges facing journalists in Albania? 64% of you said that political pressure from parties or politicians is the main challenge.
In March 2019, what was dominating the news was the opposition anti-government protests which took place in Tirana. Now, these came about because leaked prosecution wiretaps published in the media seemed to point to political collusion with organized crime to manipulate the outcome of elections. Now, within hours, I'd become the target of a smear campaign. And this campaign branded me a Russian spy, an agent, an employee of the Russian state, and an enemy of Albania. I received a notification that my residence permit approval had been revoked. I actually collapsed. I had an anxiety attack and I was hospitalized for urgent treatment because of the effect the stress and anxiety was having on me and my baby. But I knew that I wasn't the only one who'd experienced such smear campaigns, and I knew I wouldn't be the last. So I made the choice that I should stand up and fight. And it also made me more adamant than ever to dedicate myself and my work to furthering the fight for press freedom in Albania.
This started as a discussion among friends, and then it turned into a blog. That sometimes, but rarely, does the public knows what the issue is about before this issue is taken and repackaged under a partisan wrap. So we would build objective arguments and also try to educate the public on how the public could collect facts himself. We have a stance and we have a side, and that side is the public interest. And we believe that the government, whoever is in the government, should be subject to bigger scrutiny than other public actors, including the opposition. My biggest fear, or our biggest fear in Exit, it's not the government, I have to say it. It's not being threatened. It's coming to a point when we have to give up Exit.
The second poll result, the question was, have you ever received threats, pressure, or intimidation? And 60% of you said yes, and 37% said no.
A recent study conducted by the Albanian Helsinki Committee and supported by the British Embassy in our country reveals that the situation on the labor sectors of media employees is problematic. Media owners and the government took the advantage of the lack of media self-financing, and the Labor State Inspectorate fails to guarantee effectively law implementation in the media outlets. Due to the handicaps of the legislation and shortcomings in the self-organization, lack of a trade union for journalists, media employees are in a weak negotiating position, which makes them accept inadequate or poor working conditions by forcing them to accept violations that employers conduct towards them.
I definitely believe that the biggest problem that the Albanian media is facing is the ownership problem. Through self-regulation, we can solve some minor problems and problems caused to citizens, but the biggest issues with the media, which is the money that is coming under the table to them, and what they have to do to get financed, that's the problem. We need to change the business model. There are ways to do it. It will take time, but definitely we will need international support to do that. It doesn't matter what is your ideology. What it matters is, are you ethical or not?
The 95% of you responded that self-regulation mechanisms are the best way to regulate and supervise the media in Albania. The efforts in support of journalism should start with improving the education and the training of journalists in order to increase their capacities, their technical and professional capacities. I would like once again to thank each and every one of you for your time, for your thoughts, and for the valuable contribution.
When you become a journalist, you know what the risks are. You have an idea. You know, when you go into investigative reporting, especially, it's a part of the job description. But you have to be prepared to work without fear and without favor. And most of all, to speak the truth, even if your voice shakes.
And that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow for a second day of powerful stories, stirring debates, and beautiful performances and moving videos. See you tomorrow.